I had a late start into tennis, actually. I didn't even pick up a tennis racket until I got into high school in 9th grade. There was a stringing machine in our classroom where we would meet before we go out to the tennis courts. Would see people string the occasional racket on there, and I would always watch. I was always interested and never thought that I would be doing it in any way. I always figured, oh, I can always pay somebody to do it. My name is Jonathan Pham. I'm the Director of Tennis Operations at TCU. I handle the day-to-day logistics for both teams, everything from meals to travel to compliance to helping the coaches with paperwork, anything to make sure that they can focus on the success of our players on the court. I help take care of all the off-court stuff. One of the other things I also handle is the racket stringing and customization for all the players on our teams. Been doing it for, I think, 11 or 12 years. 2011 was when I first started. I just got promoted to full-time status in 2022. Also represent TCU on the global stage at professional tournaments, ATP, WTA events, lower level professional events, and yeah, that's so I joined the club team here at TCU, and I really wanted to work with the tennis program because I knew I wasn't good enough to play college tennis, but I figured with my stringing experience, surely they would at least want somebody who can handle that part, so they can focus on other things. Got struck out the first 2 years because they already had somebody that was stringing for both teams. I was stubborn enough to keep asking, and the third time, this was before my junior year in college, I was walking by a player who was leaving the team building one day in the summer, and I was just like, hey, you guys looking for a stringer? And he could have lied, he could have said it's or could have pretended he didn't hear me, but he actually stopped and he paused and he kind of looked back and he was like, yeah, actually I think we kind of do need a guy because our old guy just graduated. That's how I got to meet Coach Radidi and Coach Chia, the assistant coach at the time, for an interview, which wasn't even really an interview. It was kind of more like, oh, they kind of wanted to get to see, I guess, the kind of person I was and whether they could trust somebody like me to handle something as important as stringing for their team. Felt like I really got struck gold that day. Got to work for the teams in August 2011. Just started with stringing. It was definitely a big adjustment for me because I went from stringing one racket every week or every few days in high school to stringing anywhere from 5 to 15 in a day, just depending on how many broke in their practices. So I was struggling with the volume at first, and then after that, I started struggling with the more hours I had to put in, and then even after that, just the days per week I had to be here to kind of make sure the stringing was done, and all of the meanwhile they kind of trusted me with more job responsibilities, like helping with setting up and breaking down for match days and helping market matches to the campus and to the club team and around the tennis center. So it was it was a lot of work. And I was only doing it for $8 an hour back in 2011, but I enjoyed every minute of it. And I think they kind of saw how much I enjoyed it. They kept me around. They actually helped add 1 or 2 other student managers depending on the semester of the year to help me with the workload. And I was able to help kind of supervise them and make sure that as a team we got everything we needed to done. I graduated in 2016, and I didn't quite have a job lined up. My degree was in education. I really enjoyed my time at TCU, and the coaches kind of had that sense too. So I knew they kind of hired me as a freelancer. They were paying me by the racket to stay here and work at TCU. I wasn't an official student manager employee anymore, but I still got to be around the team and still got to do what I loved. So that was for another couple years. I didn't realize that, in the 2 years that I was working, that they were kind of secretly planning to create a job for me. They both coaches from the men's and women's teams, they kind of pulled money from each of their budgets to kind of try and create this temporary part-time position for me, and they called it like an operations coordinator. So, you know, when they offered me that position in August of 2018, you know, of course I said yes. You know, I wanted to be back to being an employee and have, you know, card access to the building and, you know, gear and, you know, be just part of the staff again, and spoke volumes to how much they trusted me and, you know, they wanted to keep me around. And in 2022, you know, just when I was like running out of steam and I was thinking like, man, am I just gonna be a part-time employee forever? You know, we put together a great team and everybody was all in, and, you know, we won our first national title in February of 2022. I think that was kind of like the catalyst to, you know, an even bigger change to where I am today. Basically, a couple of weeks after we won our natty, Coach Roditi, you know, kind of sat me down in the lobby, and, you know, all the players from both teams were surrounding me, and he was like, you know, come here, Johnny. I gotta tell you something. So I knew it was coming, but he basically told me that, you know, that I'm now a full-time employee, and they sprayed water on me, and we were all celebrating, and, you know, something that I had always wanted was to just, you know, be full-time with the benefits, you know, be considered full-time staff and all that. So finally got that to come true in 2022, and now it's been a little over a year later, and I've enjoyed every single day of it. Lots of fun, lots of grinding, lots of tough moments, but it's been great. And I used to also joke, you know, because my mom would always tell me like, you know, like, I don't know why you spend so much time on tennis. It's never gonna make you any money. And I think in my head, in the back of my head, I just wanted to like prove to her that, well, you know, you might be right that playing tennis will never make money, but I'm sure there's something I can do to where I can kind of make it a career or a passion. And so stringing and customizing and all the things involved in that aspect has helped me, you know, get to where I am today. 100%, it's a craft. There's always a sense of pride knowing that you did that, you know, there's little touches you can add to the end of a racket, you know, that is your signature, that, you know, I can identify any racket I string apart from anybody else's. So it's always cool, you know, when somebody brings a racket to me, I was like, well, hey, this is mine, or hey, this is not really, you know, I can tell it's not really strung the proper way, or that the person who strung it probably didn't care as much about tennis. But, you know, I think everybody who's seen me behind the machine knows that, you know, I'm committed to it, and I'm always looking to get better and learn from others. It's always a cool feeling seeing, you know, that, you know, hey, you strung that racket and it's in that shot, or it's in that video clip, or, you know, that you helped that player make the final or even win the tournament. So, you know, it's kind of one of the greatest undervalued and, you know, undervalued roles, because nobody ever sees the stringer or thanks the stringer after they've won. But, you know, without a stringer, you know, you wouldn't have made it to where you are, or at least having a good stringer. There's a difference between somebody who kind of just does it to do it, and then there's somebody who cares about, you know, being 100% consistent and making sure that it's done correctly and to the best of their ability.